Hello, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Coffee and Chat. Listen, I've got my coffee ready. You know what? This was a gift to me, and I absolutely love it. I love mugs and a collector of nice mugs and different turvis and etc. And so this says, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Hebrews 11:1. So anyway, I'm loving the polka dots. So thank you for this. My mother actually gave this to me as a gift, and so I thought it would be great to incorporate this morning for our coffee and chat. So I hope you have your coffee ready to go this morning. This is our time to huddle up. We have about 20 minutes together, and in this time, we are going to talk about how we prepare for our next move. And we're dealing with real life topics and things that affect us and affect those that we live with and those that we care about and those that we work with. So I want you to be excited about huddling up this morning for our coffee and chat. Again, doesn't matter to me if you like it bold or if you like it decaf, as long as you have your coffee ready to go. And if you say, Carenda, I'm not a big coffee drinker. I love tea. Get your tea ready. No excuses. We are going to huddle up and have a great chat today. So this morning, I'm so glad that you've joined. And again, this is not going to be long in duration and time, but it is going to be very effective. And we have been talking about in our series anger. We've been unpacking anger, right? And so this is going to be a four-part series, okay? So if you missed the last coffee and chat, please go back so that you can get caught up and really huddle up to hear what we said about anger for the first week. And we really unpacked what anger is, how we define it, how it relates to us, and what the Bible tells us in regards to how long anger can last. Doesn't say you can't be angry, but you absolutely have a time limit, and that your anger cannot go down with the sun. So you've got to get it right. You got to talk about it. You got to communicate. You've got to do whatever work you need to do so that when the sun goes down, your anger has been dissolved. It's so, so, so important with that. And it's also important because rest and sleep is so powerful. And one of the things that I have been struggling with lately is, I'm just not sleeping well. And so, can you imagine if you are full of anger and now you're ending your evening, you're ending your day, the sun has gone down, and now you are laying down with anger. You are bringing your day to an end full of anger, right? How can you truly rest? How can you truly allow your mind, allow your body to recover if you're not dealing with this thing that we know and we call anger? So today, this morning, for our coffee and chat, we are going to unpack and look at the cycle of anger. Yes, 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 yes. We're going to look at the cycle of anger because anger has cycles. That's the first thing that I want you to understand. And the first thing that I want you to know is that anger absolutely has cycles. So sometimes you may wonder, why am I still angry over this situation? Or why am I still angry with this person? Well, it might be because it's in a particular cycle. And even though you thought you dealt with it, Maybe you've only dealt with a cycle, but you haven't dealt with the additional cycles that come along with anger. Oh my gosh, this is going to be good. So I need you to huddle up because our time moves fast, and I want you to get this morning for our coffee and chat. So the first cycle of anger is trigger. That's number one. The first cycle of anger is trigger. So there's something that triggers the emotion of anger. It's something that triggers. Maybe it's a particular topic. Maybe it's, a particular name that comes up. Something that triggers that emotion of anger. That's the first cycle, is that there's a trigger. When you even think of lighting something, right? You've got to click that match or that torch. All right, it's a trigger that causes that light or that flame to come up so that you can use it. Maybe you're lighting an incense or a candle, and so it's a trigger there, right? So there's something that triggers that emotion, and you have to be very honest with yourself as we go through this series of anger, as we unpack this thing. You've got to be very sensitive to triggers. You got to be very sensitive to triggers. You got to be very sensitive to certain words that causes that trigger for you. All right, because that's the first cycle. There's a trigger. Either there's a word or a series or phrase or sentences of words, or there is a situation that's rehashed, or something talked about that triggers the emotion of anger. So, my first question to you is, what is that trigger? What is it? What is that trigger? All right. You've got to be very mindful of what that is. Okay. The second cycle of anger is escalation. So once you understand that anger, first cycle is that it's triggered, then it escalates. There's a cycle of escalation where that trigger builds into now the point in which maybe you are acting out of yourself, acting out of control. Maybe you are responding in a way that totally compromises your integrity, your values. Maybe you are addressing something in a way in which is inappropriate. Maybe you're having discussion, your tone is inappropriate, your actions are inappropriate. Anger triggers escalation. So you've got that trigger, and now it's escalated, right? That's the next cycle of anger, escalation. You have to understand, anger is a monster. You don't ever think that anger is your friend or is meant well for you. No, anger is a monster, and it is a very vile spirit. And it is something that must be dealt with because it will hold you back. It will hold you back. Don't even think about what you feel like it's going to do to somebody else. Just for you and you alone, when you don't deal with anger, it suppresses you. It suppresses you. It suppresses so many things inside of you. So the first cycle is that it triggers. The next thing that it does, it escalates. When the last time that you were angry, I'm not going to say if, I think we all have experienced a cycle of anger, right? So the last time that you were angry, what was the trigger and how did it escalate? What happened? What happened? What did you do that you should not have done? Or or how did you respond in a way in which you should not have responded? What actions should you have not taken? Because there's escalation there. And you have to be very careful about escalation, especially when it comes to anger, because it will absolutely take you out of character. And you may say, well, how do you know that? Because I've been there. How do you know that? Number one change agent, I know all about it because I've been there. I've experienced anger to the point where it has taken me out of character. And that's not a good feeling. That's not something that you want to feel, well, that's normal, or that's something that I can get used to, or I can make an excuse for that. No, you got to deal with that. And at the end of the day, you may say to yourself, well, it was because somebody made me act out of character. It was because of what they said. It was because of what they did. And you know what? I said that to myself for a long time. You know, it wasn't me. It was because of what they said or what they did or how they acted or how they lied or how they did this. No, no, no. You still are accountable for your actions. And your anger has accountability. And if it doesn't have accountability to anybody else, it has accountability to self. Did you just hear what I said to you? There is still a level of accountability when it comes to you, your life, your presence, your connectivity, and anger is accountable to someone. So while you may think it's accountable to the person who you feel triggered it, it's accountable to self. Oh my gosh, I gotta move. We are almost out of time. All right, crisis is the next cycle. Anger will leave you in a crisis. Anger will leave you in a crisis. Do you hear me? Have you ever gotten to a point where you were so angry that crisis was all around you? Now it's a question of what in the world do I do now? What is going to happen next? How is this thing going to turn? How is this thing going to de escalate? Because my anger has been triggered, it has escalated to a crisis. To a crisis. All right. So you've got to when you are at a point in your life and there is a series of crises, you've got to look at that. You've got to look at that. You've got to look at that as it relates to your anger, because anger will leave you in a state of crisis. It'll leave you in a state of unknown, of instability. And in our first week, when we unpacked anger, we talked about that. We talked about how anger leads to instability. So your crisis has you surrounded with instability. You are not balanced. You are not focused. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So I'm asking you this morning for our coffee and chat. How has anger escalated into a crisis? What happened? Were you at a point where you didn't know where you were going to go? You didn't know how this relationship or this marriage was going to be able to bounce back or to recover? Or was it something that brought a crisis, a separation, a division between family, between children, between spouse, between business relationships? Anger brings crisis. Crisis. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It brings forth crisis. A crisis. You are in the midst of discord. Discontentment. There's so much happening where you can't think straight, where you are having a difficult time leveling out in order to see ahead. When anger is at its peak, at that point of crisis, there is such a rampage of emotions and of words and of actions that can cause you to really devalue yourself and devalue things and those who are connected to you. That crisis that we know as anger can bring disvalue. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? It can bring disvalue. All right, what's the next cycle? The next cycle is recovery. Recovery is the next cycle. All right. All right, recovery. And sometimes you may say, um, well, that's good. And I'm not saying it's not good, but think about how anger has gotten you so off track where now it's taking you longer to go around that lap or complete that particular direction or mission or journey because you have allowed anger to get you so off course. Do you understand that even in recovery, it is such, it is a process. It is a process. And a lot of times, well, let me not say a lot of times. There are times that even in the midst of recovery, people can still be discouraged and depressed. So, in the midst of recovery, you have to make sure that there is a support system, there is a level of repentance, a spirit of repentance, and that you begin to be aware of what you need to do differently. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because recovery, as wonderful as it is, it can also cause people to still have doubt, not be patient with themselves, not put in the work that they need to put in order to see change. Because listen, when you think about recovery, you think about work. You think about putting in the work in order to get a different result. Why? Because I just went through something tragic. I just went through something catastrophic. I just went through something life changing. And sometimes you may think people are excited about recovery, but there are times I submit to you that people are very discouraged about recovery. They understand the meaning, but are they really committed to the process? Did you hear what I said? They understand the meaning, but are they committed to the process? So as you go through these cycles of anger, you've got to be committed to the process that you want to turn your anger into something different, where you can have peaceable conversations, where you can have peace of mind, and where you can be at peace with yourself. Did you hear what I said to you? Peaceable conversations, peace at mind, in order to have peace with yourself. If not, if not, that cycle of anger will continue over and over again. Did you hear what I said? That cycle, those triggers, the escalation, the crisis, the recovery. If you give up, if you give up and allow anger to overtake you, you will continue that cycle over and over again. And it doesn't matter how great that recovery could be. If you're not committed, you're going to lose sight. If you're not committed, watch out. Those triggers are going to cycle right back again. And they could come back even quicker the next time. Oh my gosh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Mm. Listen to me. You've got to deal with the cycles of anger and be committed in recovery so that you can have peace with yourself, peace of mind, and peace with others. Listen, I hope you enjoyed our time as we huddled up because we are out of time. We will meet again for coffee and chat next month as we deal with part 3 of anger. But we are going to unpack this thing as much as we can. As your number one change agent, I am committed to your process, your development. All right. And for those of you who are dealing with anger, I just want you to be encouraged that if you are committed, And if you are accountable to self, you can see a difference. This has been your girl, Carenda Deonne, your number one change agent. Find me on the web at carendadeonne.com. Until next time, live life on the promise of impact. See you next month.